Hi everyone, welcome back. Melissa here with Bee and Cozy Stitching. And as you all know, I am forever on the hunt to find projects to use up our scrap fabrics so that we don't have to throw those little buggers away because I just think they happen to be wonderful. So this time along in my hunt and my search, in my spare time, I came across a technique called collage quilting. And there's several different ways to go about doing this. But the method I'm going to show you is the one that I found to be the easiest, the most versatile, and allow you to use your collaged fabric in a multitude of different ways. You can either use it as an accent, you can put it into pieced borders, pretty much anywhere that you would like to use this as a background, as like I said, as an accent, an applique. You can cut shapes out of it, you can keep it whole, you can do a multitude of things. So this is what I'm talking about. It's called collage quilting, and what you're doing is you're bringing together all kinds of little bits and pieces of fabric to create one solid piece of fabric that can be used. It's strong. It's just as strong as any other fabric that you would use. And again, leave it whole, cut it apart. It's up to you. You can go ahead and use it any way that you would like to use it. Now, I've used it in some postcards. I've used it as a background and a foreground for some mug rugs because I think those are really stinking cute. And what a special way to treat yourself to a little bit of color, a little bit of something special, something that says something about your personality. So as you can see, it's collaged in the background and it's collaged in my little cutouts. So let's get to it. We'll go ahead and tip the camera down so that you're able to view and see how we go ahead and put everything together. I hope that this video will inspire you to try some collage quilting. And remember, please hit the subscribe button. Go ahead and hit that little bell, and YouTube will notify you every time we put out a new video. And that way you won't miss one. You won't wonder when is the next one coming out, because you will know right away. But thank you for watching today. I can't wait to see what you come up with your collage quilting. So let's get at it. Okay, so now that you're looking at the work surface here instead of my face, I need to start by telling you you're going to need a piece of lightweight fusible interfacing. Now, I like to use Shapeflex 101 because I like the results. I think it's a really good product and I get really good results at it. And so I see no reason to change or be different. But I don't want to exclude the other interfacings that are out there because you may have one that you absolutely love to use too. But I have these, and I have these leftover pieces, and so I want to turn these leftover pieces into fabric that I can use for other projects. So now you all know there's a fusible side, and then we'll call it a fabric side because I don't know what else to call it, but it's the back side and the fusible side. We need to start our project with the fusible side up so that when you run your hand across it, you can feel all those little bumpy lumpies of the glue, and the soft side then will be facing the table. Then the next thing we have to do is just dig into our little fabric bin, and we start with a piece of fabric. Now, I like to start in the center and build out. You could start in the corner and come across. You can start on half and go one way and then finish the other half and go the other way. It really doesn't matter how you do this. It's totally up to you which end you want to start with, where you want to start with. The results are all the same. It really doesn't matter. So with that said, I'm going to start this way. You start whatever way works for you, and then we'll have a really neat project when we're done. So what we're doing is we are bumping the fabrics up next to each other, enough so that the white down below is covered, but it doesn't have to overlap. Now, if you choose to overlap it, you can somewhat overlap it, but what I will tell you is be really, really, really careful with your overlapping, because when we come back through and we do our decorative stitching on here, and hopefully you can see some of these decorative stitches that are on top here, they get kind of thick. And if you've overlapped your fabric, then it's going to get even thicker. And some stitches might have a hard time going through because they're not designed to go through layers and layers and layers. They're designed to add something pretty to a finished project, whichever you prefer. So with that said, like I said, butt them up next to each other so that they're covering all of the white. Overlap them a little bit if you want to. I mean, I have maybe 1/8 of an inch overlap on these. I wouldn't go any more than that. You're going to run into problems if you do. Then it's up to you to just dig out of your bin, grab your scraps that you like. When you're laying out, doing the layout process, it's totally okay to leave stuff behind it until you can see if you like the layout that you're doing. If you want to choose something different. And you see how I'm not really caring what sticks out, what doesn't stick out, how much covers, how much doesn't cover. I'm just playing right now. I'm laying my fabric pieces out so that I can see where I'm going and how I want to lay these out. I can put stuff underneath. I can go back once I have all my fabrics laid out on top, and I can do some trimming. Now, that's a funky, weird piece, and yes, it'll cover a whole lot of my square, but it's also going to be really, really boring. So I really don't suggest that. I suggest that along with your fusible interfacing, you have a really good pair of scissors so that you can cut stuff down. The weirder shaped they are, the smaller that they are, the better in the end when it's all said and done that it looks. Again, more angles. The more angles you have, the better it looks. More squares. Whatever you feel is going to add more interest to what it is you're doing. Don't be afraid to play. This is where we actually get to just be the designer and come up with something fun. Oh, see, now I can put that one there, and because this strip is so long, I can bring it all the way up here, and I can even put just the tiniest piece of fabric. Oh, let's cut a little tiny piece of this one off that we already had out. I can stuff that one under there. Like I said, we're going to trim it all down pretty soon. So let's go this way. That makes more sense. Then we have less to cut, less fold over, less everything. Okay. So see where we're going? See how it's looking so far? And you continue on with this manner. And actually, I think I would slide this little bugger all the way up because I can. And that covers that corner just nicely. Oh, I'm going to really love how this one comes out. This is perfect. I love this. Okay, so as you're going along, you're going to keep going until you get to the point where your sheet is completely and totally covered. You want every inch, remember we talked about that, you want every bit of your white fusible covered. And remember, it's a lightweight fusible interfacing. Interfacing gives strength, it gives body, and it gives you a better finish. And it will help stabilize all those decorative stitches when we get to the point where we stitch on our seams and put our decorative. So when you're doing your decorative stitching, you just want to make sure that you ride right down the middle so that your decorative stitches are falling on both sides. Now you may have to adjust the tension on your machine if you find that your bobbin thread is coming up to the top. You may have to move that down. I've currently moved down to about a 3 for my tension. And I'm getting a little bit, so I probably could go as low as 2. These are things you're going to learn as you start to play with your machine more. You'll learn which settings work really well with your machine to give you the results that you're looking for. And you'll know when you go too low and you get nothing but bird's nest on the back. But depending on where you use this piece for an application, it really doesn't matter what's on the back. If you're going to cut them out and make applique shapes out of them, it really isn't going to matter. See? All right, so I think that needs to be a little thicker, a little more dramatic. So let's see what we can do with dramatic. And I am going to go down to a 1 with my top tension because I really don't want black in this. I put black on the bottom and pink on the top so I could show you the differences, so that if you've got good tension or bad tension, you can see where it's at. Now, if I have good tension, I should just have pink on the top. And I'll show you just as soon as we get done here what this looks like. And we are just about there, so bear with me. We're almost to the end. I'm going to stop with my needle in the outside position because I'm going to turn the corner here. I think that's kind of a pretty little stitch, and I think it would be cute going around to the other side. All right. So, as you can see, we've got black on the bottom and pink on the top. So, at a 1, we're perfect. We are right where we want to be with our tension. So for us, that's where we're going to stay. Now, again, play with your machine. Get to know your machine better. There's no better way to get to know your machine than to just mess around with the stitches. So you have permission to totally play. Isn't that awesome? We get to play, and it doesn't matter what we do. All right, so let's come over here. The only thing you want to make sure that you do is cover all of your seam lines. You want to put some kind of stitch over the top of all of your seam lines. Now for what we're doing here, I'm just using one color of thread, but don't limit yourself. I mean, yes, you can use one layer of thread if that's what you'd really like to do. It's pretty, there's nothing wrong with that, and if all you have is one pretty decorative thread, by all means, please use it. But at the same token, don't be afraid to throw some of those different colors on there and really play and have fun. Just have fun. There are so many beautiful, beautiful threads out there. And the other thing you're going to learn, which is kind of interesting, is which stitches look well where. Now the one that I'm currently doing, and I'll show it to you in just a minute, it's not as bold as it should be, and so being next to these really busy fabrics, it really doesn't stand out a whole lot. It'll do what it needs to do. It'll hold my pieces together. So as far as function goes, it's perfectly fine. But if I'm going to go to all the trouble to stitch on this, I kind of would really like to have some bling. I'd like to see it. I'd like it to be, I guess I'd like it to be a wow. Okay, so now you can see what I'm talking about. Over here, it's so, the two fabrics are so busy that you really can't see the stitch. It's only when you get over here, when one is busy and one is more plain, that you actually get to see that it's a Greek, you know, like a Greek ornament type stitch. So again, what a great place to play. What a great place to learn what your stitches do, how they look, where you should put them, where you shouldn't put them, you know, all that good stuff. So here's one that's a little more filled in. It's going to be a little darker. It's going to stand out a little more. Even though it's going through some really super busy fabrics, It's going to stand out. It's going to make a little bit more of a statement than my Greek ornament stitch over here. And that's okay, because it's trial and error. And depending on what I do with this, I may end up cutting it apart and you won't ever see that stitch on top of there anyway. It just depends on, you know, where am I going to use this? Am I going to put it in a pieced block? Or am I going to make it a decorative thing? Or am I going to put stuff over the top of it? That's the fun of making your own fabric sheets, if you will. You get to decide where to put them. You get to decide what to do with them. Just let the fabric talk to you. The fabric will tell you where it should be or what it wants to be when it's finished. If you listen real careful, you'll get your cues right from the fabric. And yes, that takes a little time. Yes, it doesn't just come. And you may have to get your awl in there, your point turner, whatever, your skewer stick, whatever you use to help you keep your fabrics down until you can get them stitched over the top. Totally acceptable. Whatever you need to help make your job a little bit easier, I think that's exactly what you should be using. And so, I think you guys have seen enough of how to go ahead and put some decorative stitches on and where you should put them and how they look like when they're done. But as you can see, that one's a little more bold. It sticks out in the busier fabrics better than the Greek ornament. Could I have had a bolder one yet? Sure, but that one was fun. I've never tried that stitch before. I wanted to see what it would look like when it was put on a piece. So then, go ahead and finish off all of your lines where your fabrics meet, butt up, overlap, whatever. Go ahead and make sure that all of those are filled in, and then your sheet is finished and it's ready for you to do whatever it is you would like to do with it. Use it in whatever application. Stitches in. So I've went ahead and done this, and I had so much fun I had to play with this. And you can see you can do different colors. You can dig through scraps. You can keep them all pink. You can keep them all red. You can do whatever you want. I even got my granddaughter to make one, and she had a really good time making it. And we don't really worry about any of the overage or the overlapping because we're encouraging a young artist. So we just want to keep the flow going. So with that said, so remember, this could be a really good project for you to do with your grandchild or a young person or, you know, whoever. And then what you do when you're all done, you're going to take an iron and you're going to follow your manufacturer's directions for your lightweight interfacing, and you're going to fuse this all together. Together. So then once it's all fused together so that it's one piece of fabric and it's cooled off, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to trim right to the edge all the way around. So we just put our ruler here, we bring in our rotary cutter, and we cut all of that excess away. Don't throw this away because we can put it back in the scrap bin and we're all set and ready with new pieces for our next project, you know, for our next collage that we put together. Now, collages don't just have to be straight items in a row, they can be cut into shapes. And what we've done here is we have a collaged background and we have collaged hearts, and we've taken our hearts and cut that out of this. Once we get all of our decorative stitches on here, then we can go ahead and we can cut out whatever shape we want to, and it alters and changes the look of things, of what you get, what comes out of it, how much, and then you can add embellishments if you want to. But remember, the background is collaged, and then we've added more collaging cut into shapes on the top of it. And it doesn't matter which direction you put them. You can put them either way that you want to. You can see here that I have it going one way, and here I have it going the other way. But each is very pretty, and they look nice when they're finished. Okay, so if you don't want to make something big, a wall hanging, a mug rug, that type of thing, you can always make little small postcards out of them. And again, all we've done is cut up our collaged fabric and adhered it to something else to make a finished product. Now these are blank postcards, and you can get these through Amazon, and I'll put a link down below for you in case you're interested and would like to get some. And then all I've done is stitched them to a little piece of pre-quilted fabric that I had left over from another project. And then once these are sewn to the background, they can be stitched right onto the paper card. But I think they're cute, and they add just a little bit of something. So learn from my mistake. Don't stitch down your little shapes and then stitch it to your paper card. Stitch your little shapes to your background fabric first, and that way you only have one set of stitches going around on your postcard, because really it's going to be very difficult to write on this now. I think this one will just end up on the refrigerator. But it's still cute, and I like it, and I highly recommend you give it a shot. The other fun thing about this is, because it's now a sheet of fabric, we can cut this into 5-inch squares. We can cut it into 10-inch squares. We could cut it into 2-inch squares. We can cut whatever size square that we would like. Now, can you imagine using this in the center of, what do they call it, a sawtooth star, where you've got the flying geese on top and on the side and on the bottom and on the other side, and then 4 corner squares? This would be something to wow in the center of that pattern. You could make half square triangles out of this. How pretty would that be? You can do a mixture of half square triangles, and they can be half collaged and half straight fabric. Remember, it's a piece of fabric now, and once it becomes a piece of fabric, you can do whatever you want with it. It doesn't necessarily have to be an art project. It can still be a conventional quilting project. Now, a little thing to talk about when you're doing your decorative stitches on your machine. I've used both embroidery thread here, and I've used metallic thread here. I like the look of both. Either is totally acceptable to use in this process, because again, we've fused it first, and so our fusible is giving us the strength and body that we need in order to keep this piece of fabric together. It isn't the threads, the decorative threads that we're using, that's actually holding this together. So don't be afraid to bust out your specialty threads. Don't be afraid to use the decorative stitches on your machine. Get in there and play. See what they do. Make sure that you're using an applique foot, a foot designed specifically for your decorative stitches. It will have a hollow in the bottom. Let me grab a foot so that I can show you. They're designed to ride over the top of the buildup of the special stitches. So as you can see here, There's kind of a V cut out into my foot. So as you're stitching, the decorative stitches can come through. See how it's got a little lip, so it's up a little higher. It just makes it easier to go over the decorative stitches, and it gives you a much prettier, much nicer finish because the fabric isn't going to catch and pull and tug for you. But otherwise, I'm so glad that you stopped by today. I really hope that you'll give collage quilting a try. It's lots of fun. Remember, post your pictures on our Facebook page, on our Instagram page. I can't wait to see what you create with your collage quilting fabric. And as always, if you have any questions at all, please leave questions or comments down below. We're happy to answer any questions that you have about this. And other than that, I hope you have a really great day. Happy stitching, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for stopping in.